Hello and welcome to this special Saturday WrestleTalk news episode. I'm Ollie Davis, here from my home. And the reason I'm making this special Saturday morning episode is because after months of anticipation, we have finally had a huge WWE return to SmackDown. I am, of course, post-SummerSlam, talking about Giovanni Vinci. He's back. We got a vignette for him. He's kind of doing his the sort of gimmick he had before Imperium, back when he was down in NXT, where he's a cocky Italian guy. He wears fancy suits. He drives a sports car. It's gonna be awesome. And apparently there's also news that WWE are going to be running a premium live event in Italy in 2025. So he's definitely facing for Cody or whoever for the WWE Championship when that comes around. Yeah, so cool, have a good weekend, folks. Lol. I am, of course, also here to talk about this guy, who, after his SummerSlam return at the end of the PLE, he has now made his first appearance on SmackDown in over 4 months. The entire episode was structured around his return, teasing it out for as long as possible. That's the right thing for the viewership. The opening segment was Cody Rhodes coming down to the ring to talk about who he wants to face at Bash at Berlin for his next WWE title defense. And he was interrupted by Solo Sikoa and the Tongans. They came out. Crucially, this was Solo to say, Roman better show up tonight. I also want a shot at Cody's title. I want my rematch. But he has to deal with Roman first. But the really significant thing here is that we had Solo. We had Tama Tonga. We've still got Tonga Loa. But there was no Jacob Fatu. Of course, Fatu was injured. I'm just going to do these quotes whenever I say that for Jacob Fatu at the moment. On the big dive outside onto Cody through the announcer's desk at SummerSlam. He was later seen wearing a walking boot, although all the journalists who have reached out to WWE can't really seem to confirm whether this is a work or whether this was always planned, because WWE didn't want Jacob Fatu to be around Roman Reigns. They don't want to pay that sort of match off too early. But Fatu wasn't with the Bloodline on this episode of SmackDown, and Cody Rhodes even pointed that out, making it part of kayfabe. He said that Solo doesn't deserve a rematch because he has screwed up this and that, even all the interference. He even got Jacob Fatu injured. So that's why Fatu wasn't on this episode. I'll come into a little bit more on the injured parts at the end of this video. So the whole episode is building up to this. We also had the Vinci vignettes. There was some qualifying matches to become the #1 contender for the tag team titles, which is, of course, also bloodline related. We don't know which version of the tag team champions we'll get if Fatu is actually injured. But we've got 10 minutes of the show left. And Solo Sikoa and the Tongans come out, and he looks upset. He doesn't look confident. He's sort of doing that thing Roman would do when the acknowledgement is kind of a desperation move. Like, please acknowledge me. I'm the tribal chief, right? Rather than a supreme act of arrogance. And the real driving part here, character-wise, was he held up the Ula Fala lei, and he said, as long as I have this, I am the tribal chief. Roman Reigns, you've got to come and get it from me. And I think the best way to think of that lei is it is SmackDown's version of a friendship bracelet. All the big feuds in WWE right now are over jewellery, essentially. And, that's wrestling, isn't it? It's all just a big fight for some jewellery. So the Ula Fala was given to Roman by his family. And I think that's the real important part, that they're the anchor emotional part of this entire feud. Because that is the thing that brings out Roman Reigns. Not the, I'm the tribal chief, this. It's, I have the Ula Fala. So Roman Reigns comes out with 6 minutes left of the show. He gets an enormous pop. Like, he is the biggest babyface on the planet right now. Huge OTC chants. Took me a while to realise what OTC stood for. Of course, it's Original Tribal Chief. And he brawls with Solo Sikoa. He's gonna do the spear, but I think Tama Tonga pulls him out. Roman had already killed the Tongans with some steel steps before that, in that kind of James Bond henchman, get him boys, but only one at a time kind of way. And when the ring's cleared, the Ula Fala lei is left on, like, in the middle of the ring. And Roman walks over to it transfixed, and he picks it up. He's like, this is what I want. But then Tama Tonga attacks him. And then so does Tonga Loa. I'm sure he botched a few moves in there. And they're beating down Roman. And during this, and this is a very slight pausing detail, and I'm not even sure it happened, but I have seen some other people pick up on it. And it is the exact sort of very slight, subtle storytelling Easter eggs, or foreshadowing points, that Triple H has really liked to drop into his major storylines, particularly around a story so epic as the Bloodline. Tama Tonga picks up the lei, and he does hesitate before he passes it through the ropes to a shaken Solo Sikoa on the outside. And it's hard, we don't even know if it's a proper hesitation, so it's quite difficult to read into, well, what is Tama Tonga potentially thinking here. But as someone who loves The Sopranos, it's usually, I'm coming for this position of power. I don't think Solo is behaving too strongly here. Or maybe he even regrets backing Solo Sikoa now that Roman's back. He's like, oh no, this seemed like a much better idea when Roman wasn't around. So that's a really nice little point, and we'll see if it ever blossoms into anything. But Roman has to stand tall, of course. It's his big return onto SmackDown. He takes out both Tongans. He spears Tonga Loa. He does a Braun Strowman choo-choo train round the ring, and he spears Tama Tonga through the barricade. And Solo has the lei, and he's sort of backed up the ramp, and he is just shouting down to Roman, I'm the Tribal Chief. I'm the Tribal Chief. And Roman, still not having said a word beyond ooh-ah, just stands there gurning at Solo Sikoa. And that's it. That's our angle. There was no big development. There was no other big surprise. This was perfect in its simple execution. It gave you and the fans just enough to feel satisfied as a follow-up from Roman's return on SmackDown, or on SummerSlam rather, but also it leaves an incredible amount in the tank to be followed up on in later installments, which we're really excited to see. I just decided to write down a few of the things that are surely set to come in this latest innings or chapter, whatever Paul Heyman wants to call it, of the Bloodline saga. We have the Roman promo. He's not even spoke yet. I think that's the next big thing. We want to hear Roman speak. We have the lei. That is now the de facto world championship in this feud. We have the Tama Tonga intrigue. Is he actually a little bit disgruntled now with Solo Sikoa? We have the return of Paul Heyman after that excellent angle back in June where he was ridden off TV by the attack from Jacob Fatu. We have the Usos, both Jimmy and Jay, who actually have a whole storyline there to unite with each other in and of itself. We even have The Rock. I keep forgetting that The Rock's a part of this whole storyline, but yeah, even when you've gone through all those bits, where is The Rock going to fall down on this? Is he going to be like, well, Cody actually beat you, Roman, so actually I'm on Solo's side by the law. Is he going to side with Roman and become a babyface? Is The Rock just going to say, nah, you two are both feuding, doesn't matter, because I'm actually the Tribal Chief? And if he beats Cody at WrestleMania, which is, what I think would happen, he certainly has an argument for that. Cody beat Roman, Rock beats Cody. Does that mean Cody's the Tribal Chief? It's confusing. It's confusing who the lineal Tribal Chief is sometimes. I think, isn't Drew McIntyre the lineal AEW World Champion because he pinned CM Punk? I think that's the way it goes. But most curiously for me, and this is back to that injury, is the status and alignment of Jacob Fatu. Because Fatu was ridden off, like I said earlier in this video, on SummerSlam with a slight injury. He's not on this episode with the Bloodline because of injury. Cody Rhodes references that directly. And I was like, when he said that, I was like, damn, maybe he really is injured. What an awful time to get a knee injury or an ankle injury, whatever it is. As the tag team champion as well, the hottest thing in this Bloodline faction. You know, the one that doesn't involve Roman Reigns. The Bloodline faction. Because it's Solo Sikoa. The Bloodline. Because Solo. I'll work on that. You know, feel free to feedback on that pun in the comments. So the idea apparently behind Fatu getting ridden out of that little bit at SummerSlam was because they didn't want Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns to share the ring at this point in the story, because that is a big confrontation they can build up towards. Solo Sikoa, despite all the booking back when he was in Roman's version of the Bloodline, has not been booked that credibly, I would argue, since. He's relied a lot on the Tongans and Jacob Fatu, who is now far and away the most credible part of the Bloodline faction. Rolls off the tongue. So when I was watching this SmackDown main event segment, and Roman just easily dispatches the Tongans, who are just, I guess, kind of the Freebird tag team champions right now. Solo Sikoa is running away. The Bloodline aren't a credible threat. This is kind of like Roman back in the day, when we didn't like him, beating 4 or 5 members of the League of Nations. We know they're just there to get beaten. And you need that now, at least for the next couple of weeks. You need Roman to come out, awesome babyface momentum, clear house, and these 3 evil heels just yuck, yuck, yuck and run away. But then Jacob Fatu will return. And Fatu is far, far, far more dangerous. As soon as he is added back into the Bloodline, they go from Roman's villain of the week to actual serious contenders who I could see beating Roman and getting those big post-match end of SmackDown main event beatdown angles, put him through the announcers table, maybe write Roman off TV for a couple of weeks after an injury thing there. Fatu is the key to all of this for me. But for the next couple of weeks, we can enjoy Roman just kicking Solo's ass, I think. Of course, Reigns is advertised for next week's SmackDown, and he was just announced also for the 13th of September episode of SmackDown, which is crucial because that is the first one that's going on the USA Network. It'll sort of be their big season premiere, so expect some big things for that. Right now, there's no word on a Bash at the Beach. Was it called Bash in Berlin? Bash in Berlin, I think. Battle in Berlin. It's a show. We don't know what's going to happen there, but I hope Roman has a match. But I think it is also too early to do a Solo Sikoa versus Roman bout. Definitely don't want to see Jacob Fatu versus Roman yet. And also, I don't care about Roman versus the Tongans. So I don't know. Maybe it's something where the Usos come back, Heyman comes back. Maybe that's building towards War Games. But that's all the way in November. The only other thing I want to talk about in relation to SmackDown and the Bloodline Roman Reigns stuff is that Fightful Select have reported Roman has new entrance music. It's ready, and the quote is, as a description, it is expansive and lengthy. That's what she said. Well, thank you very much for joining me here today on this special SmackDown Saturday episode of the news. I know we haven't done one for a while, but there's various reasons for that, and costings and stuff. But we're trying to work on that. The best way to help us get back to those is to go support us on Patreon, patreon.com/WrestleTalk. If you go there now, you can watch the exclusive episode of Survival Series. Brand new Survival Series went up yesterday on PFK, so go watch that right now. But also, we tried to name every single WWE Women's Champion ever. No particular order, just loads of names and a time limit. So go over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk to watch that and keep supporting us, to helping us keep making these videos. But for now, I've been Ollie Davis. Jam that jam.